Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. And welcome to Aldente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. But tonight, we're not tackling a creepypasta. We're tackling a webcomic. We are tackling Broodhollow, Book 1. Curious Little Thing.
Why is it we're doing a comic instead of a quote-unquote actual creepypasta this time?
I'm glad you asked. We're doing a webcomic, Broodhollow, because it's the end of Ichor Fall. And guys, we ran out of Ichor Fall stories.
Yeah.
So, however, Ichor Falls didn't end with creepypastas. It has a spin-off show, or has a spin-off series called Broodhollow. So Kris Straub is a webcomic artist on top of a creepypasta writer and a podcast, an actual play podcaster, and a role player, and like a video maker and stuff like that. So he's a man of many talents.
He's not a one-trick pony.
Yeah. One of the webcomics he's made is a kind of a sister town to Ichor Falls, which is Broodhollow. And he started back in 2012, around the end of Ichor Falls's like lifespan, for the official stories that he was writing for it. And it's sort of an extension of Ichor Falls and the Ichor Falls like mysteries and creepiness. So that's where we're going to tackle. And he did. It spanned, as far as I can tell, it's currently spanned about 3 books. 2 of which I believe are public. And then in recent years, he started a Patreon for the 3rd one. So, but we're going to tackle book 1 for now, and then we'll see down the road if we tackle the other ones. So I guess we should start before we get too ahead of ourselves. Do we want to do the initial recommendations for this one? Well, I'm going to recommend I'm going to recommend this creepypasta. I'm going to recommend this webcomic.
I'm also going to recommend this book 1 of the webcomic.
Ah, yes.
Ditto.
Cool. All right. I'm feeling a lot better about this, guys, because I was really worried. It's like, oh man, like this webcomic I like, are they going to hate it?
Oh, don't worry. When we get through talking, I'm sure Wishy Washy will show up and be like, I don't
know. Oh boy, Wishy Washy, what are you doing here? I don't know.
Seems like a Towley character now.
I think we've just created a Towley character for Aldente.
Nice.
Wishy Washy, what are you doing here? I don't know.
You want to get high? No, it has to be different. Like,
yeah, exactly. Want to get wasted? Anyway, so I suppose we should move on to the rundown for this episode. So Wadsworth Zane, a neurotic door-to-door encyclopedia salesman from the 1930s, gets a letter about an inheritance from a long-lost uncle he never knew in a small town in West Virginia called Broodhollow. And that is the longest sentence I have ever written.
It really is. Also, the way that you described it, it sounds like Wadsworth Zane specifically is from the 30s, but he's living in the current timeline.
Yes, I should preface. Yeah, I know. I should preface it. This Broodhollow is set in the 1930s.
Yes.
Zane grapples with a compulsive behavior he calls the pattern, which compels him to ensure all doors in his presence are either wide open or fully shut, never slightly ajar. That behavior will come up and as a running thing throughout the story of Broodhollow, Book 1. From his trip on the strange train to this town, to the first encounters with various townsfolk, Zane begins to take note of very peculiar oddities and potential supernatural circumstances in the area. Haunted by a ghost girl, dream encounters with a French skeleton, attacked by eldritch bat creatures, the strangeness continues to stack. All the while, the folks in the town seem oblivious and even forgetful of the various events that occur. It's not all darkness, however, as a cast of fun characters, mostly amicable to Mr. Zane, populate the burg. The big and tough-looking, yet friendly Bottlefly boys, a pet bat named Mercy, who Zane adopts after the weird monster bat attack from the night before. Iris, the daughter of the lawyer who was to give the inheritance to Zane, the same lawyer who we discovered died, but no one, including Iris, seems to recall or seems to like repeatedly forget about the odd death and the trauma that kind of incurs. And then we have Dr. Angstrom, who is studying Zane to try and help his mental predicament and ailment. These, to name a few, of course. There are other characters throughout this webcomic. But the latter two become very close friends with Zane during his stay, and then help him along the way in investigating the strange goings-on the town. Zane, the investigations of which lead Zane eventually to becoming a member of a strange secret society of the town's businessman circle, the Skull and Shovel Society. Ultimately, the investigation leads Zane to be kidnapped by the undead William Harker, or the Stitch Man of local legend. But with the help of that ghost girl from earlier, Maddie, who had been haunting Zane since his arrival to town and been thought to be the villain during the story, it's because of her help that Iris manages to find Zane and rescue him from the Stitch Man, mostly by whacking the animated corpse quite thoroughly with a frying pan. Of course, authorities don't believe the encounter and chalk it up to hysteria. Ultimately, Zane decides to stay in the town and take up his grand uncle's shop, even beginning to forget about the strange occurrences and weirdness himself as the weeks go by, unaware that there are bigger fish in the proverbial pond of spookiness that is Broodhollow. But that is for another book. Finn for now. So yeah, that was the that's a basic rundown of like book one for Broodhollow.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, I suppose we shall move on to everyone talk. Do you have anything for Grammar Inquisition, gamer?
Hell yeah, I do.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
So, okay, full disclosure, like I talked to Gamer off recording about this, like I think like last week about this. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have a Grammar Inquisition, and Gamer was just like, "Oh, hang on, hold my beer. I'm gonna, yeah, challenge accepted. I'm gonna find Grammar Inquisition." So for this webcomic, lay it on Kris Straub, Gamer.
One of them I realized was a note, so I just removed it and put it into the notes section. However, I still have grammar stuff, so
okay.
Okay, so throughout this entire story, the use of ellipses seems to keep flipping and flopping back between double dashing and actual ellipses. And like, I like Mario Kart as much as the next guy, but it should be consistent, you know?
Fair.
Like page one has a mix of ellipses and periods, and ellipses with double dashes. Like it's flipping flopping. Maybe it's on a case by case basis because in the first panel,
yeah,
only the therapist uses the ellipses. But
Mr. Zane, ...
Yeah,
you
but
are
like
about to hell. You're about to tell me what brought you here, and then like the next panel is, we discussed your need to disguise emotion with humor. Double dash.
Oh right, he did double dash once. I missed that one.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then.
Oh, I just like, I was like, again, you told me that it was on first page, so I started like reading through it.
Sure, yeah. Like maybe it's it's meant to show it as a different type of pause, but I don't understand the difference between the two.
Yeah.
And like going through the entire book, it seems like well, basically.
Well, it is a book, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
might
I
as
mean,
well.
I can buy the physical copy of the book, of book one, like on Amazon.
Nice.
It's in my wish list.
So yeah, going through reading through the entire first chapter, all the characters seem to flip flop between the two. So
Yeah.
I just don't know the reason.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm like, that's something we might have to look into like a little bit further just to see if like what the actual protocol is for that. For again, isn't English the best?
Yeah, no. I'll pass.
Yeah.
I forget what language it is. I don't know if I brought it up or not, but there's a language that's like very specific and like there's no overlap, where there isn't like one word that means 15 different things and stuff. Where it's like very was it William Shatner's language or whatever?
Esperanto?
Is it that one? I don't remember.
I don't know. That was gonna be my joke, like reply response.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know enough about Esperanto other than it's a construct. It is a fictional, or not fictional. It's an actual language, but it's an artificially constructed language created like in the like the 20th century.
Yeah.
It was a language that was made to be like a universal language, but like no one uses it except for like a handful of people and mostly celebrities.
It'd be an interesting second language to learn.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the secret society, like the secret conspiracy language of celebrities. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Okay. Later on, it says this is on one of the jokey panels where he's like trying to sell the encyclopedias and all that, and the guy says, "If it's not food, get the fuck out," basically.
Yeah.
And he says, "I wish they were edible. That would save a lot of problems," is what Zane says. Wouldn't it only solve 2? The hunger and the annoyance of them being heavy all the time? A lot more than 3.
In 1930s, like food, the food and the other thing. I can't remember what was the other thing.
What other thing are you referring to? The 2 things that I'm mentioning?
Yeah, what are the 2 things?
Well, one is food, and one is just the annoyance of having to drag around this heavy-ass thing. Hence, why in that panel he's struggling to pull it.
Yeah, well, I think it's supposed to be like a jokey thing, but yeah. Like,
I understand that. But
and also in the 1930s, yeah. Fair. I mean, maybe it's just like, the first 2 solve the third problem, which is the depression of the 1930s.
Eating
that's the other
would solve the depression.
Yeah, because it'd be like, it'd be you can read what oh, this is a very interesting topic. It's like dinner and a show.
Just digest that knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. You're like there's actually, what's so funny is like we're going off topic here, but like tangent police are going to be at my door any minute now. I am stalling.
I'm not over there, so stall as much as you want.
In Pathfinder, the RPG, there is a I think it's a bard class that you literally are a tome eater. Like you devour tomes to gain knowledge and like spells and shit.
Interesting. I'm not surprised, but interesting.
Like there's a picture. It's like the icon picture is like an orc girl or an orc woman, like in accoutrements and stuff like that, and just like shoving a tome down her gullet. Ah.
Delicious knowledge.
Yes. Sorry, back on track.
That's fine. A third problem that it would solve is him not being able to sell them would be solved because people would want to buy them because they're food.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, edible, having to lug these things around, and then actually finding somebody to actually buy them.
Mm-hmm. Making money and all that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because in the 1930s, because it's the Great Depression, the main thing you need money for is to eat because there's a major shortage or like high demand for food.
Mm-hmm.
So
what caused that? I don't even remember.
I know I learned it in history class, but like it's been a hot minute since I like took that class. So
Right before the war, I guess, right?
yeah, no, it wasn't before the war. It wasn't.
It was after the
It
war.
was after World War One.
Yeah,
Yep.
after World War One in the 30s and
Yeah.
before World War II.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess just
it-
the results of World War One kind of fucked over the America pretty hard.
Well,
Well-
not really. It's actually so because in the 20s we had like it was the 1920s, like it was everything. It was booming because like it was a post-war economy and stuff, and then the economy crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What caused
Well-
the Great Depression, according to Google?
the economy was on a sugar high, and then they just crashed.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes,
the,
Mikey.
the big thing, if I'm remembering correctly, is that basically they had a bunch of people in ammo plants making ammo for the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then because that wasn't needed anymore, that caused a lot of people to not have jobs. And the economy tanked and the stock market crashed. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was this from the Google the Google answer is the stock market crashed in 1929. The collapse of the world trade due to the Smoot-Hawley tariff, government policies, bank failures and panics, and the collapse of the money supply are all the reasons and suggested causes for the Great Depression.
Yeah, those are all valid for sure.
Yeah. Jesus.
We're all learning here.
Yeah.
So, my next one is a blanket statement to the entire one so far.
Okay.
And I'm assuming all the other books as well, unless things have changed since book one. I doubt it, though. I was having a bit of an italics situation in regards to the all caps. Because like the whole thing is done in all caps. And the focus of words is put in with bold.
Yeah.
But when you go bold on all caps, right beside all caps, they kind of blend together because there's not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
You know?
It needs to be a little bit bolder. It's getting bold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be a little bit bolder. So I actually come across this because I've done some webcomics in the past as well. And I find that a lot of fonts that a lot of webcomics use, they tend to be just like all capitalized.
Why is it all caps though?
I think it's just because it for like the dialogue, I think it maybe makes it easier than like I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that. Mikey?
And isn't that something that happens in comic books too? Like in
Yeah.
all caps?
I'm
Like
asking
the
why
old
though,
Batman
not
comics.
other reasons, not other places that it shows up. I'm curious why everyone gravitates to all caps.
That could explain it. It could be an industry standard based on comic books doing it. So people who make web comics go to that standard.
Yes, but
guys,
if you know why that's a standard in the first place.
I actually have it in because of Google again.
You could just lie and just say that you're a genius and you know these.
No, I'm giving it. We give credit where credit's due on this show, gamer.
Okay.
So according to multiversitycomics.com, looking at lettering, caps versus mixed case. As years passed and capitals became an ingrained standard, cartoonists found other reasons to keep using them exclusively. These are the reasons most commonly touted as being the reason for capital letters. Poor ink and paper quality tended to bleed, and capitals retained their readability better. So honestly, it's a readability thing from like that. It's a tradition that and a habit that actually has its roots in the old funny papers of like probably the 1930s, when ink and paper and stuff like that was poor. So they used caps because they had this a stronger consistency for readability.
That makes sense. Like doing a lowercase I, it's just like a little line with a little dot, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if it bleeds, it becomes a full uppercase I.
Also, we can kill it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Damn it!
It was like the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I went for.
And then I snatched it from your hand.
Yeah. I gotta increase my minimum effort, not just go for the low hanging ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one spot where I specifically noticed that I couldn't really I didn't notice the bolds too much is when he says, "I'm an encyclopedia man, Dr. Angstrom, a man of science, not superstition." Like the encyclopedia man, science and superstition ones are bolded, but they kind of all blended together because it kept flipping flopping between the two.
That's fair.
So I get that that's a standard now, and I understand why, and that's cool. But I wonder
Though
if
the
it'd be better
bolding
if
is
they were underlined and bolded, or just underlined.
Yeah.
Although if you underline it, then it could bleed into the next line a little bit underneath it.
Yes,
so.
I think maybe like the font could have like had a thicker like bolding to kind of like help differentiate, because you can notice it, but I get what you're saying. Like there's a lot of if it's like a big like wall of text or like a big like word bubble of text, it kind of gets like wow wow wow, like kind of like it kind of gives off that pattern a little bit of like it's just kind of like you're not like it's like what like it almost like creates like a wavy effect of like so that where it just muddles it.
Yeah.
In with the rest of the text.
It's like when you're reading the whole thing, you have to like be on point looking for bolds instead of if it was all lower. I'm not saying it should be lowercase, but in quote unquote normal creepypastas, it's all mixed case, and then all of a sudden it's uppercase, like all caps.
Yeah.
Well, that pops real well, but you can't really make it pop when everything is all caps. So
yeah. But yeah, this is definitely more of like a generalized like industry problem than just for Broodhollow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Although this last one, so all those other ones, they're like kind of nitpicky, and I'm learning stuff. This last one's unacceptable though.
Okay.
I have to say. It's on 2013 419 if you want to go there, but you don't have
see
to.
if I can actually
you really
find...
do not have to.
This will tie in. You said 2013
419.
419. I'm actually like typing that in.
All of them. Oh
yeah, no,
I'm
typing
it in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm typing it at the top and not found.
Bitch.
Great. I have a bit of a I have some in my actual thoughts. I have a connected thing to like this, so we're like trying to find a page rather than just like constantly scrolling through it. But we'll get back to that, and I'll put a pin on that.
Yeah, I might have wrote down the wrong code, because on some of these I was putting codes in, but like I'm used to typing in 2022, so someone typed 2022 on them, and
I think I know what I did wrong. I think I know what I did wrong. So it was 2013 04 19.
Yep,
I found it. I got So I had to add in the 04.
Oh yeah, of course.
Not just 4. Okay, yeah. So I'm there. I'm on that page.
So he is screaming at this man, or sorry, this little boy.
This little boy, yeah.
He's just trying to sell papers. And he says,
for the audience, like it's like he's walking around town, and then like the paper boy is like starts talking to him and like wondering what's going on, and then Wadsworth reacts to it.
Yes. He says, "You're not wearing your Deliverance Day thistle." And then he yells, "What is wrong with your town?"
Yeah.
However, because there is no exclamation point and there's no question mark.
Oh, yeah. What the fuck?
He's saying a statement, and he is not yelling it, but he's making a yelling face. What is wrong with your town?
Well, no, his face is definitely showing something like a sign of like distress or agitation.
Of course.
But it's just like what is wrong with your town? But it's like all casts.
You have to try to make it sound like it's not a question, though, which is hard.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, that's
like it's ingrained in our minds to make it sound like a question because it starts to
have an inflection. Yeah, you almost need to like take an AI and just like use that like text, because like the AI won't like, because there's no question mark, it won't do any kind of annotation.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and I'm sure like there's no exclamation point and question mark because of like sizing purposes, because if you put those in, everything gets squished around a little bit more. You'd have to make the font smaller, so we wanted to make it really pop. I get it, but
yeah,
I said I would look for grammar stuff. I found some grammar stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That being said, that's the end of it.
Okay.
I win.
Thank you, gamer, for our grammar inquisition on an episode about webcomics.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah. But Mikey, I assume do you have a grammar inquisition, or did you just like ignore that?
I don't have a. I don't have one, but thinking about one of my actual thoughts might point to a potential grammar issue.
I was really worried that you were just
more
gonna
of
be
a
like,
comic issue than grammar.
okay, fair.
Guessing.
Well, if you want, like, you can do it now, or you can like save it for the actual thought stuff.
I'll save it for later.
Okay, I was really concerned you were gonna do like, well, I have an it story. Like, oh no.
It's all dialogue, but I got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly, like that's the other thing about like why like again like this is falling into our trap card of grammar inquisition is that it's the way the characters talk literally. But I think that's enough grammar tomfoolery. I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts.
I'll bring this up because I don't know if anyone has an actual thought on it. Does anyone have any thoughts on the art itself?
That's literally my next. I'm diving into that.
Cool. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, my actual thoughts are kind of like, they're categorized by like art, humor blended with horror, the connective tissues to Ichor Falls, the story, notable favorite characters, some things I didn't quite like about the webcomic, and then the website itself. So we'll start with the art for me. I actually really love the combination of the simple stylized character comic art. Like it's very reminiscent of the 1930s style of funny books. And like kind of like not quite rubber hose, but like it felt like an art style from like a bygone era.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that how it's blended with the occasional horror sequence that is just suddenly super detailed and dark and gritty, and with like has like literally has a gritty texture added onto it, or like a blood splatter texture added onto it and such. So like I really really dig the art style for its kind of like blend of like 1930s-esque art, like cartoon style, and I think it's honestly just Kris Straub's like kind of art style, but in this one he makes it a little bit more exceptionally older type of cartoon or comic,
older timey.
Yeah. Anachronistic, if you will. And then like when he goes into like the skin the skin take, or not the skin taker, the Stitched Man or Maddie the Ghost Girl, or even like the horror bats that like come at like start growing to like eldritch size to attack Zane throughout the comic. They like start change. Actually, even the bat ones is a good example of that. Like as the panels go, the bats go from being just like large bats to like these horrible eldritch. There's like more and more detail applied to them as they become more and more horrific looking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that's what I got for the art. Again, I really dug it. And then going on to the humor blended with horror, I really like the dry and often deadpan quips and jokes that are in the story. One in particular is when Zane and Iris are at the hospital, and like Zane's kind of like confiding in Iris about his mental state, and like he doesn't know what's real and what's not. And they're both looking out the window, and there's the lines are, I can't even tell if that's a graveyard out this window or just a trick of the light. And then Iris is just like, oh, that's absolutely the old graveyard, if it makes you feel any better. And then Zane replies, nope. Just like I love that kind of like quipping, like kind of like that dry deadpan quip.
Yes.
Kind of look to it. The horror elements, they're aesthetically, honestly, like the horror elements here are very aesthetic. Like I think it's more of a thrill, like in terms of like me reading it and like going like observing and like ingesting the art style and like the horror that's happening in the story and stuff. it comes off in my head more of like a thrill than a scary horror. Like it's more like a cool horror than a scary horror for me.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy it. Like that's not really a bad thing. Like I do enjoy it, but I think it's just really hard, or it's way harder to invoke actual horror in a comic book medium when you have to actually show something rather than describe something that a person can then mentally create the image in their head.
Well, also because the cartoony characters are cartoony and everything.
Yeah.
Then there's like a disconnect when you see the horror elements of it all being like hyper realism.
Yeah, I think that might be also it. Is that like yeah, like the monsters, like the creepy monsters and stuff in this game, in this webcomic are creepy looking, but they're also not, because of again, like you said, the contrast with the cartoon style isn't contrasting it like, oh, cool cartoon, oh god, what is that? Like off the page.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more just like, oh cool, that's cool, like cartoon style. Oh, that's cool, like creepy style.
That's also
like I know
brain as well, my brain as well, because it's like we're looking at the comics and then all of a sudden hyperrealism shows up. It's like, whoa, that's really nicely drawn. It's not like, whoa, that's scary.
Yeah, like honestly, for me, like webcomics that do this like well, like are ones that kind of like the normal like art style is like very similar to the horrific one, and they just the artist has found a way to make an image unnerving to me, in the same art style. So like, and again, like that's not entirely the point of Broodhollow. Like Broodhollow is a horror comedy sort of like genre of comic. Like it's got the humor to it that blends in nicely with like these horror elements. But I think at its roots it is still kind of like it's more of like a mystery than it is like of a true horror.
Yeah.
Now again, that could just be my brain, just like I'm not like desensitized or not able to like fully connect with the horror elements of the story that were intended. But I also think that's something that is very tricky to do in the medium, mainly because you're showing. Because in this case, showing rather than telling makes it less scary. Or it's going to be subjectively less scary because it's going to go by a reader by reader basis. Who knows? There might be somebody out there reading Broodhollow who is like reading all or watching, like checking out all the cool cartoon style, and then get horrified by like the Stitched Man when he shows up, or the bats, or Maddie.
That's the other thing too. Like they're all technically in his head. Even the massive bats, the Autofly boy said that they weren't really that big as drawn in that image. Well, he was just exaggerating.
That's the thing about the narrative. It might be all in his head, or it's either him or it's the entire town. Like who? Like it's that kind of like it's that kind of quote of like, I'm not insane, everyone else is crazy. Like, and that's kind of a running theme in Broodhollow, because like there is something either like Zane is the neurotic one, and like it's catching to some of his friends, because like by the end of the story, like Iris is also affected by it, and to a degree even like Angstrom. But there also does seem to be kind of like a weird like supernatural like influence over the entire town. And you even see it by the end of the story, like, because Zane kind of falls into it as well.
Yeah.
Like, oh, where'd I get this scarf from? And it's like, oh shit, he's forgetting.
Yeah,
he's forgetting. It's a Derry situation. It's like in the Stephen King novel It. The town of Derry is being constantly manipulated by Pennywise psychically into just like turning the other way, or just not acknowledging the horror, that like the horrific like killings and stuff that's happening. But I'll move on to the next thing, the next category I have here, which is the connective.
Actually.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I still have more things to say about the art, because I don't actually have a note on it, and we're talking about art anyways.
Okay.
What do you feel about the transition from cartoon to the hyperrealism, aka on the same page? Because to me, every time I flip to a panel, is it a panel for the entire page? No, it's page.
No, the page. Yeah.
When I flip to a new page that has a horror element on it, the very first thing I look at is the horror element.
Yeah.
Because it's so jarring that I have to look at it first, and then like my eyes naturally go to that. And then I have to go back and read why it shows up. So it's not really a surprise.
Yeah, there's a couple of instances I don't mind. Like on the one hand, I don't mind it because like the way it's done in certain at certain points in the story, I don't mind it because like there's some like for example the transition from the bat monster, like the just oversized bats to like suddenly the eldritch bats. That one was a good like kind of like transition to like from like the cartoon style to the horror style. But you're right. Like there's ones where it's like when he's actually I think it's like the second or third page. When he's seeing when you first see the Stitch Man, and it's like that one's. I don't know if I hate it or not hate it, but like I don't know if it's. Well, because like but the page leading up to it, like we're kind of like he's looking at the door, he's going to sleep, and then also actually I think another thing to kind of give into this is like the way at least the way my my the website is showing for me is that a lot of the time Kris Straub will try and find a way so that the horror stuff is on the bottom of the page, so that like when you open up that that page on the website, you get the top parts of the panels. So if you read those first and then scroll down, then you get the horror stuff.
But even if you are
but
like hyper focused and like tunnel visioning to the top left, you can still see in your peripherals that there's horror right around the corner.
Yeah, I feel I'm also with you. Like
Honestly,
I think,
in my opinion, is you have all the comics and everything, and then you would end like that one where he first sees the Stitch Man, because that's been on my screen this whole time. You would end that page with him looking in the door. And then the entire next page is a zoomed up 2-shot of him getting up, and then it goes back to comic. So it's an entire page dedicated to it. So it will be shocking because you have to click on it to see it. And then you click away from it to get back to the comics or the cartoon style again. It would also
I can see that
real estate to see the horror of it and like the hyper realism, because it's basically full page.
Yeah, but sometimes that can be like really like in terms of like a horror, like aesthetically, like again, like this is like the Stitch Man like scene, like if I saw that, like if that was a full like thing, I kind of get the I'm here's wishy-washy showing up.
God damn
it. Because like the way you're describing it, I agree with you, but at the same time, I also am worried about getting the vibe that I got from the Bye Bye Man movie, where at the end of the movie, spoilers for the Bye Bye Man. But when the Bye Bye Man shows up, and like he like literally like whips open his jacket and shows himself in full glory, and like there's like it's storming out, there's lightning striking, and at that point I was like, this movie's not scary at all. Like this went full, like they jumped the sharks so bad, like they jumped the sharks so much they're in another state.
I mean, okay, but
like it just kind of like I hear what you're saying though, like it like you want like the like I understand what you're trying to get at is like the fact that like that's the first thing you see because it's like it's way different from the rest of the art style, and then you have to read through the rest of it. But the problem with the other one is that when you show it too much, like when you show horror too much, it stops being scary. That's the problem with horror is like you have to show it in a certain light, or you have to like find certain techniques to like obscure it so that the person's mind, like the psychology of the person's mind, actually like gets scared or something by it, or gets creeped out in some way.
I mean, I see what you're saying. Or if you don't want it to be full page, then there's a couple of pages in this where it's showing like the funny section in the paper, and it's just like it's a thin page. It's like half vertically, half of the normal comic page size. So you can just do that if you don't want it to be full page. Hell, there was one later on where it's like double the height when
because
with the decapitation going on. So that was fine.
Yeah, well, because that one I actually liked that one because like it showed like all you saw was a black screen, and then you scrolled down and you got like this really cool like scene of like Iris like just whacking the Stitch Man's head off with the like that was actually I liked that one for what it did there. Like I thought that was like because again like I think in the webcomic medium the aspect of having to scroll down. Like there's several webcomic artists that really utilize that, and like this one uses it a couple of times.
Yeah,
and that the frying pan or the thwacking scene was one of them. I also like to counter myself. Like I think,
man, rather than you need to get out of
here. I don't know about that. Maybe. Is what if like so it goes all the way to like we cut the panels because we're on 2012 10 17.
Yes.
God, I hate these page the page system of the webcomic.
I like it
really? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's easier to just go with a number.
Yeah, if it was a page number, it'd be fine. I think that would be more simple.
Like CH1 dash and then a page. It's all chapter one, or just keep doing the numbers. But if you do a chapter, then you can easily jump between chapters. Regardless, that's unrelated. Please continue.
We'll get back. Again, I'm putting a pin on that one for later. But yeah, so like, so we're on 12-17 or 12-10-17 or 2012-10-17. And like, keep the top panel, keep that maybe even like, keep that lower panel, and then have the rest of it be dark, like just darkness. Or like or have like that the space where like the two like horror panels are be like an open closet door, and then cut to the next page and just have those two horror panels the same size they are right now, but just center them onto a black page. Like don't size them up so that like the viewer has more room to like look at them. I'd say keep them the same size they are, just isolate them to the center so that you're focusing on these small panels, but they're small enough that like it still kind of conceals some of the weirdness, like the darkness and the spookiness of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or another way to do it is lead with the horror, as in
I could do that.
This page would end with him looking in, and then you start the next page and it shows those two, but then it continues with other stuff after that.
Yeah,
like most of these scenes end with the horror because that's when the scene ends. But again, visually, it kind of spoiled it.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point because like how many times have we gone into reading a creepypasta where the author puts a spooky image at the top and like kind of ruins the at least for like ruins the experience to at some degree, right? Yeah. No, your perspective on this is valid, gamer. Okay. I accept you.
That's all I ever wanted.
Yeah. Mikey, do you have anything else on the art? Like since we're still here, like the art and the humor versus the horror.
No.
Okay. I got one more thing.
Okay, yeah, no, we might as well do it this way. Like it's fine.
The way I kept seeing Wadsworth is he is Excalibur from Warframe, basically, because his little hair thing is skin. It's like a little horn.
It's not, but okay.
I mean, it looks like it.
That's the art style. But
I reskin him to look exactly like Excalibur, and I might do that.
You should. You 100% should. Yeah. I hate you for it, but you should.
Like, there's a little pointy stuff at the sides of the head as well. Like it's almost 1-to-1. I'll give him an energy sword and everything.
Oh God!
I forget which I really saw it, and he was just standing there looking directly at me. I'm like, that's Excalibur.
I'm looking at on 2012-10-19, the last panel where he's just like, yes. Laura's like, and these behaviors protect you from ghosts. He's like, yes, and he's just like his hands are out like wide and stuff. I immediately just like pictured like you going in there and just adding an energy sword coming out of his palm.
You can't unsee it now, can you?
God damn it, you asshole.
Everything is Warframe.
No. Wow. Okay.
You're welcome. Please continue now.
Okay. Let's move on to the speaking of like the horror and being and things being ruined. No, I'm kidding. Let's move on to the connective tissues to Ichor Falls. So reading through book 1, I found myself recognizing characters and events from Ichor Falls stories, like the original ones written by Kris Straub, here and there throughout it. And I like how later in the book there is an expansion of some of the folklore and legends to the wider Mason County area. Like that, like this, the county where Ichor Falls sits is Mason County. And Broodhollow is also in there, along with like the other 2 towns that are kind of briefly mentioned when he's getting on the train and such. Like I think I can't remember what they're called, the 2 other towns, but they're also fictional towns that Kris Straub has made, but are in Mason County. So like for instance, Maddie is like the ghost girl that like that's haunting Zane at the beginning and like throughout the story. That's actually Maddie from Curious Little Thing, which is an Ichor Falls story.
Yes.
William Harker and the Stitch Man, while not in a creepypasta, like an Ichor Falls creepypasta per se, they're on the website for Ichor Falls, a quiet community, I think it's called. Hang on. I should have typed this. I had this up earlier. Yeah, on the website for Ichor Falls, a quiet community. When you go to the local legends page, there under right at the top of local legends is the Stitch Man legend, which is about William Harker, who was a master tailor who like when he lost his he like there was a fire and he lost his family, and so he started grabbing people, kidnapping people and taking their skin and stuff and stitching it together and such. So again, and adding like kind of taking that, and then one that's a little bit more indirect is the Skull and Shovel Society and their card game, Parlor Oubliette. It kind of reminds me of the Opossum Society from the titular creepypasta, the Opossum Society, which has a rather lethal or fatal card game in it.
Oh yes,
that the secret society, and it's even set I think in like the 1930s or like an early era. Like the character, who I think the character either like their uncle like gets them in on it or something, or they just stumble into it, and the society like brings them into the card game, and then like they all drink something, and then one of the guys loses and just kind of walks away crying because he's and like the guy's like, oh, that's weird, why does that happen? And then like there's another, like the waitress comes over with another shot and he's like, no thanks. It's like, oh no sir, you're gonna want to take that. Why? It's the antidote for the poison you drank earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? And like that, like they're playing this game, it's like Russian roulette kind of, because like they all have a poison and the loser doesn't get the antidote. But it's not the same. Like the Skull and Shovel Society isn't the same as the Opossum Society, although they are very similar. Like both of them are secret societies by the circle of businessmen of the towns. And Parlor Oubliette might like we kind of jump into it like it's the card game in Broodhollow isn't as lethal as far as we know, but they're like, I mean, maybe in like a later book, one of the later books, as Zane gets more ingrained in the town society, maybe they'll kind of expand on Parlor Oubliette, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a card game, and this is just a funny webcomic, and it's not as dark as Ichor Falls.
Maybe,
but we'll have to see. But yeah, those are the ones that I kind of picked up on, and there's other like things like just the kind of the vibes and stuff of that, of like the various things in the story, kind of gave me like, yeah, this is absolutely a sister town to Ichor Falls.
Yeah, got the vibes for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got for the connective tissues section of Ichor Falls and Broodhollow. And then on to my next category, which is the story itself. So honestly, by the end of book 1 of Broodhollow, I could easily envision this as a film. Like, and I think that I was like connecting a bunch of the sequences by the end of the story to like, oh yeah, this is a film trope. Like this is like the kind of scene that like kind of narrative that would definitely be in like a thriller or like an investigative horror movie, where like there's a team of investigators or like some people investigating this town, and like they're investigating a monster, and then like one of them gets kidnapped, and another monster that you thought was scary throughout the story is actually trying to help them and like leads the rest of the team to rescue the kidnapped person.
Mhm.
Like it felt very not Scooby-Doo, but like kind of very like I guess 2000 like early 2000s, mid 2000s like horror movie, or even like I guess even 90s horror movie kind of investigation kind of tropes, which again not banging it on it. Like they're tropes for a reason, and they work. But yeah, I honestly could envision like Broodhollow being kind of like or kind of like Stephen King's It. Again, like the newer ones, like the new version of the movie, like the new movies that came out, like Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Like it kind of gave me those kind of vibes for like, it's like, oh, this could easily be translated to a movie if somebody wanted to do it.
In a
I
weird
also
way, it kind of
sorry.
felt sometimes like I could see like the animation, even though there's no animation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it kind of. I'm like, it definitely gives me like like Gravity Falls vibes too. Like, because that one also is very similar. And I guess Gravity Falls is similar to Broodhollow, because Broodhollow I think came first. But where it's like a cutesy, fun like cartoon, like Saturday morning cartoon, and then they throw in like some really like horror vibes to it. And yeah. Oh, actually, wow. First episode of Gravity Falls came out in 2012 as well. June 15th of 2012, in fact. When did the first of the October of October 6th, 2012 was when the cover of book 1 came out. Interesting.
Not that you're saying anything.
No, not at all. Actually, honestly, like it just that might honestly just be like a really pleasant coincidence.
Of course.
That we got two really cool like like kind of like Saturday morning horror like stories, or like in two separate mediums at the same time, around the same time. That seems kind of interesting. Anyway, I also like that Maddie wasn't the true villain, and that she was actually trying to help Zane and Iris. Like, near the end, there's a panel where it's like the not the skin taker, the Stitch Man is talking to Zane, who he's kidnapped. Is like, girl, your protector, Iris, don't you dare touch her. And then it cuts away to Iris, who's like trying to like falling asleep while reading like doing some research. And then she like there's like a tint of blue like near her, and she looks at it, and it's actually Maddie like at the door, like the ghost girl trying to like help, like trying to get her attention and like lead her somewhere.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like the Stitch Man and Maddie were in cahoots at that point.
What?
It looked like the Stitch Man and Maddie were in cahoots at that point. Like he sent her over there to get her.
Yeah, but it's actually like she was leading her, like them there to help her. Like they're so.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked how like that. Yeah, because in the original story for Curious Little Thing, Maddie is supposed to be just this playful little ghost girl that just like whenever you leave a door, or whenever you leave anything slightly ajar, or just like at that precipice of just being at the precipice between being slightly opened and closed, you'll see a little girl in that point. And like the whole comic or the whole story, like it's like, oh, that's actually not that horrific at all. It's just this weird little ghost girl. It's actually kind of realistic in a way of like what people sometimes see. No, just like of like what people see when they see apparitions, like they see like something they could just be a figment of their eye or something like that. And then it gets really dark when like he's like brushing the character's brushing his teeth, and he sees Maddie's eye down his throat.
Yeah.
As he's about to close his mouth. So like, yeah, again, Kris Straub has this really interesting, unique way of like making something creepy, but also like kind of whimsical. So, so that's what I got for like the story. Honestly, was just like I enjoyed it. It was a fun romp into Broodhollow and such. And it actually ties into the story ties into like my next category, which is notable and favorite characters. So I don't know if you guys have any notable favorite characters, but I've got about 2 or 3.
I didn't get the memo.
Actually,
I didn't know I had to prepare this.
Well, no, I just like I just like when I was taking notes, like, oh, I gotta take some kind of notes for like this, like how am I gonna tackle this? So I was like, oh, let's do it this way. But yeah, while I go through mine or through my 2,
I like the paper
maybe
boy.
think on that.
Favorite character.
let me just go through my 2 favorite ones. Actually, technically, I'm cheating because the first one is 3 people. The Bottlefly boys, Maurice, and Maurice.
It might as well be one person, honestly. Let's be real.
Yeah, they're just awesome examples of subverting expectations and tropes. Like, I like that you think they're gonna be like antagonistic, but then they're just like slap them on the back and like, oh, don't you need some help there, boy? Yes. And just like big muscly guys, like just you think they're gonna be like they're gonna cause some trouble, but they're actually just like they're super chill and awesome dudes.
It set the tone for Broodhollow really quickly.
Yeah, because
it made it look
exactly.
Like, oh shit, he's gonna get the crap kicked out of him the first day.
Yeah, like it's kind of like it was kind of like leading up to that point, like where the reveal is. It was like getting dark and like it's nighttime. It's a creepy scene, and then suddenly it's lighthearted. Also, just love the non-plus they give anything that they're dealing with. Like when the bats show up and like are attacking people on Ouster Eve, they just kind of go into like ho, just like smash into them and just start like attacking them themselves, like very horror pulp. Like these guys are definitely like a character from like a Pulp Cthulhu game or campaign or scenario.
Yes, also Maurice is Mario, just jacked Mario.
Yeah, basically, yeah, like they're like handlebar mustaches, big beefy, like they're factory workers, like they're mill workers. So like they're your kind of typical big beefy strong man character from the 1930s.
I say Mario because he has a giant mustache and a flat cap, and he wears red and blue.
Yeah. And then my other favorite character, who's less amicable towards Zane, but is no less fun, is Rutherford Planchet, the local businessman and like landlord. I just love his rivalry type, like archetype toward Zane, like his overreactions and dead set attitude towards Zane being like a scam artist himself is just so goddamn funny to me. It's just like so like there's one panel in particular, or one set of panels in particular. It's like when Zane's like getting out of the back room of his grandfather or his granduncle's old shop, and Rutherford is there, and he's like, and Rutherford's just like, everything copacetic, and then Zane's just like, I'm just, there was just a lot of old man died in there, and then the next panel like cuts to Planchet. It's like, good, because I need you healthy and alive when I destroy you. You've made a powerful enemy in Rutherford Planchet, little man. And then the next panel is like it's Planchet again, and on Zane. I will get whatever value this shop holds in time, Zane. This building is leased. Your great uncle's business owes me hundreds in back rent. Can it be paid in installments? Yes. Or the next, and there's another one when like Zane's in the society, and it turns out there's Planchet as well, as long as the mayor and a bunch of other businessmen of the town. And one of the characters, I think it's the hotel guy, like the hotel receptionist or owner. He recommends doing like the card game, and so it cuts to like, shall I do the honors? And he's holding like a box full of like decks of cards. So it's like, and the mayor's just like, yes, exactly what the event calls for. A few lively hands. Who's in? And then Zane, next panel is, oh, I don't know how to play. To which Rutherford pipes in, already bluffing. Deal him in last. Just like I just love like his just like very aggressive attitude towards Zane.
Yeah, when he first showed up on the scene, I immediately saw him, and throughout the entirety of this story, heard him as Scott from South Park. Scott is a Canadian. He's like the really tall Canadian guy that's a dick. Like everyone in Canada calls him like, there's Scott. He's a dick. He's always showing up like,
Okay,
you rule this day, and like,
yeah. You shall rule the day you came across you crossed Rutherford Planchet.
He's the guy who's like, I'm not your guy, buddy. Like as he's being pushed away on the
Oh, that's who that
I'm
was?
pretty sure that was him.
Okay.
Like he's always causing problems and yelling, and that's basically what Rutherford does.
Rutherford.
Yeah. Especially when he goes like,
no, I
also saw him a little bit like the Canadian Minister of Movies from South Park as well, where
okay.
I'm saying all these references you don't understand, but it's fine. Where like it's in the South Park movie when Kyle's mom is doing like an anti-Canada thing because of the Terrence and Phillip movie. And the guy is like, I think I know can you let me finish? Can you let me finish? Like he keeps saying that because Sheila keeps interrupting him. And by the end, he's like, please, can I finish? Okay, I'm finished. And then he literally says that in this. Rutherford says that. He's like, I'm not finished yet. Okay, go ahead. So those two characters merged together into one that made up Rutherford.
Nice. Yeah. Also, I just like even like when he's it's also like like when they're at the Ouster Eve like event and like they're all like ring the tone and stuff, and he has like that yes, my family has this like this perfect like copper like this gold like this gold tie and like to ding and some of that, and then like the mayor like gets on him for like being angry at or for being antagonistic towards Zane. It's like, show some camaraderie for your fellow man, and they both just like we like they're both like forcing smiles and like he's not like he's not necessarily at least as far as I know, not necessarily the villain, but he's just like that kind of like foible character or like that kind of like antagonistic rival character that you see sometimes in media.
Yeah. So visually,
like he's sort of
he looks a lot like an antagonist from like Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely does. He looks like the prosecuting attorney or something like that.
Yeah. Miles Edgeworth.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I also can't get out of my head that he kind of looks like Vegeta. Like, with his hair, he kind of looks like Vegeta. So he's just Vegeta in a pinstriped shirt or pinstriped
his hair
suit.
kind of does have low key Vegeta vibes. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It's over 9,000. That's how much you owe me on this lease.
Do you know how much you owe me? It's over 9,000.
And then Zane's just like, what? There's no way that could be right.
9,000. Yeah. And he kind of looks bald too, mostly. So he has a little bit of Napa vibes.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's more like Butters because he's mostly bald, just with like a little bit of hair.
Yeah. Or as you like to say, it's like the old skin flap. Frontal skin. Oh god, can you imagine like because again it's clear like he's blonde and so like his hair is just like it's like the same kind of skin color or something like that, or it's like a pale hair color. It's like again it's an artistic choice for the hairstyle for Zane, but it's still just like what is that hair?
Yeah.
Now I can't unsee the goddamn Warframe thing. Thank
You're
you,
welcome,
gamer.
Yeah. His hair is like opposite of mine. Where like I'm losing my hair up front, but like out back and everywhere else it's fine. He's the opposite. He's
god,
out back and everywhere, but up front it's fine.
Oh Jesus Christ, that's horrifying.
But he's owning it.
Oh man, that. Yeah. I guess, yeah, that's true. Also, apparently, it runs in the family because his great uncle also had the same kind of hair. Yeah, you see. I don't know if it's. I thought I saw it. I thought we saw a depiction of the granduncle.
Yeah.
In this, yeah, it was at It was during the Skull and Shovel Society, right? Like, there's a portrait of him.
I thought it was when he went to go to his uncle's shop. He found pictures.
Right. Yes. And yeah, that it shows like he has a very similar art, like a similar hairstyle. So it's like that. Hence, they're related.
I don't think it's meant to be blonde, by the way, because there's a couple of blonde characters where it is colored in yellow. I think it's like a very.
So
it's not dirty blonde. It's like a sandy kind of blonde, like almost whitish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, it's basically like a dirty blonde sort of character.
He's
Or no,
dirty
his
blonde.
hairstyle is just in tone.
Irrelevant.
I know. Yeah, it is. So those are my two. Like honestly, those are the two characters that like. And again, I like all of the characters in this, but these are the ones that really like stood out to me as like these are my favorite characters in the series. So have you guys figured out what your favorites are?
Oh, we were still doing that.
Yeah.
I totally like second grand half uncle once removed, Virgil Zane. You never see him.
Oh yeah. I mean, without him, we wouldn't have the story of Broodhollow. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. But realistically, like Wadsworth Zane's pretty fun. I feel like they beat a dead horse a little bit with his what's the word?
The neuroses? Like his
specifically when he's like in the library and he's like, hang on a minute, and he has to check like all of the little drawers to make sure they're all closed.
Well, it does kind of tie into the narrative.
I know
like again, like
I know it totally does, but it's at the teetering point of doing it too much, but it didn't really go over. Because like we get it, but it wasn't too much, but it was getting there.
Fair. And Mikey, your favorite character, or at least the character that stood out to you the most?
I'm gonna go with the Butterfly Boys and the skeleton French guy.
Cadaver. Okay, I gotta ask: did anybody else read his dialogue in a French accent?
Of course. How else could you?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
The Cadaver is those are fun little comics.
Yep. Also like Mercy the Bat.
Yeah, Mercy's pretty cool.
Surprising amount of adorableness from a bat.
Mm-hmm. Surprising amount of character for an animal.
So for tamed it real good, like real quick.
Yeah, it's almost like it's supernaturally intelligent.
It might be.
Perhaps. Or, it's a cartoon.
Shut up.
So. Okay. So I guess now I'm gushing a little too much. It's time to step back a second and give some stuff that I didn't quite enjoy about this webcomic. So there's a panel at the very so Zane is rushed to hospital or to the hospital 20 minutes away from town,
quote unquote rushed.
Yeah, rushed as much as possible, given the vehicles of the time as well too. So, but anyway, like he's recovering, and like Iris is there, and Angstrom's there, and then the nurse notices that Iris is there. It's like, oh, are you feeling well? I'm certain it's still a terrible shock. And Iris is like, what shock? What do you mean? And next panel, the nurse says like, you were here a month ago when you brought your father to the emergency room on the night that he died. And then that up until this point, like we're like the whole part of the plot was that Zane was waiting a few days for Iris's dad to return from a business trip out of town. And then we get this kind of revelation, and then Iris is like, that's right. And then immediately cuts to her like suddenly grieving. It's like, I forgot. So it being revealed that Iris had forgotten her father's death was a bit confusing to me at first. Like I thought that the twist was going to be I thought that the twist this twist has happened a couple of times in serialized webcomics where the writer and often the creator of the webcomic, while they don't plot like the full story ahead, they kind of like go by week kind of thing sometimes. And so they'll sometimes add in like twists like these, to kind of spice things up, and kind of doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. Looking at you, Lost, not a webcomic but a TV show, where there's twists just to have spice things up, or just things happen just because.
Well,
But
that at least has Lost in the title because you're supposed to be lost.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I should have known about that going in. But the more I read into it, the more I read after this revelation, the less the kind of vitriol I had for this twist. Kind of the less it stung. Mainly because it was kind of revealed more that the people just in this town have this kind of weird thing where they forget about events, or they false memory certain events and stuff like that. Almost like Derry from Stephen King's It. So whether or not it's something supernatural or not, we're still trying to figure that out. It's probably supernatural. And even Zane falls victim to it by the end of book one, where he looks at the scar, he's oh, where did I get that scar from? And it's oh shit, he's forgetting too. So it kind of eventually makes sense, but initially when it's revealed that she's forgotten that her father died, it kind of came off to me as not pre-planned. I kind of wish there had been some kind of hint prior to the revelation from the nurse.
Did you really think that they're just going to go to the hospital to fix his head and then that's it?
Honestly, kind of, yeah.
The plot point.
I know. I guess.
And also, when it happened, your view on it's valid and everything. But when it was revealed that she didn't remember, I chalked that up to just that's what she did to try to deal with the grief. She just put it out of her head. It's nothing supernatural. It's just she tried to forget about it by being no, he's coming back. There's so many times in movies and TV shows or whatever where there's an old lady and she's saying, oh yeah, my husband will be back next week. Meanwhile, he died 5 years ago or something like that. But she keeps saying the same thing.
Oh my son is coming back from the war.
So I just thought,
and it's oh
yeah, I just chalked it up as that's how she's dealing with it. She's treating it like he's away and he'll be back in a few days.
You know what? I didn't really think of it that way, but that is kind of a very common trope as well. Yeah, I don't know. This is sort of just my reaction when I first got to this part. It kind of irked me, and this is probably on my part a nitpick. Just because it does pan out eventually. With even if it is it's either her just kind of like you said, kind of coping the best way she knows, her mind knows how, i.e. forgetting it, or just kind of fabricating a shotgun, or there is some kind of supernatural element, as the series kind of, or the story kind of alludes to later on, that's why people just forget things in this town.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the other, so that was kind of a nitpick thing. I'm on board for it now, but there was a process. The other thing that kind of irks me about this webcomic is honestly the website itself. I remember there used to be a lot more on this website, or maybe I'm false remembering it, but I remember reading this, starting to read Broodhollow years ago. And there was a lot more on the website, and now it's just the webcomic itself, and then next and first and last and current, or next, first and current previously.
Define a lot more.
There used to be some actual pages you could go to and get find out about the characters, or a contact info, maybe not contact information, but stuff like that.
There's a codex basically.
Honestly, I think that's really what I want. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is I wish this website had an index of all of the comics, so that you didn't have to just scroll through each individual comic, or have to know what date a webcomic was, so you can type that into the domain name to get the right panel. Because I found it kind of mildly frustrating that I had to like scroll through when I was going back through to try and find a panel that I wanted to reference for my note taking and stuff. And I like when webcomics have like an archive or like an index page that you can just like look through like all the pages and select that one that you want to go to rather than have to like scroll through like page after page after page.
Yeah, even if there's just like little mini checkpoints where it's like him like start up until when he actually wakes up for the first time in Broodhollow, and then after the bat attack, and then after the hospital visit and stuff like that. Like there's multiple spots
like
where
have
you
like
can have checkpoints.
Yeah, like the start of Ouster Eve, or the trip to the hospital, or his attack, the attack at the Umbra Hotel.
Yeah, you do have to click hundreds.
Oh God, I just realized, gamer, the hotel's name is Umbra.
Of course it's Umbra. Umbra.
God damn it, the Warframe
Yeah,
connection.
because he's Excalibur Umbra. He's the original one before they changed. You never see his face because it's first person in game during that cinematic.
Oh
so
God,
now it's just him. That's why Excalibur has that part up there, because it just solidified his hair.
Gamer, I need you to like take. Remember, how there's the Umbra like model that has like part of his eye showing, like the inside. I need you to take like one of Zane's eyes and just like slap it in there, like just a cartoon.
Right
Oh my God!
Look at Umbra
shit.
in a very different light now.
God damn it! He might become my new favorite character now as Excalibur.
Yeah. Excalibur.
God damn it! Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, and I also hate you for bringing that up. But yeah, those are my big kind of nitpicks. Oh, mostly the website stuff is just my big kind of issue with the website or the webcomic itself is being able to access like the pages other than just scrolling through. Mm-hmm. I would have liked some kind of way of like easier access with the interface. And also, like, I remember the website used to have like a news kind of like a little like at the bottom of it used to have like a description for everything, or like a new like what's going on right now, and used to have like a main page where you could like check out like news for Broodhollow. But maybe in the last couple of years, Kris Straub, like when he switched over to a Patreon system and stuff like that, and like his own website, maybe he switched over to switch all that stuff to like a separate website or something. I don't know. But for the webcomic website itself, it's a little annoying to access
a little
things.
Bit.
So, because like for instance, like if we do go and read book 2, we have to scroll through all of book 1 to get to book 2.
Yeah. If nothing else, it should be sectioned out in books.
Yes. Yeah. So, but that's honestly my actual thoughts. I end up there with some criticism of the webcomic.
I think I do have a bookmark saved at the start of book 2, so I'll just send that to you for us to use when we're doing that.
That would be handy. Or or I can just like look up like what the date is for that book and then just like type that in, because that seems to work. Like going on in the domain name and changing the date, but like. This is why I said like dates are like I kind of wish it had been page numbers or like book like B1 B1P like number, like page number kind of thing, because like the dates are fine, but like maybe it's just like it's too definite. Like you need to like know exactly what date it is that this page came out on. But I'll stop griping.
So really gripe
and save that for you guys. Yeah. I know. So Mikey, D stands for evil. What else do you have for your actual thoughts?
Well, I just stumbled across one.
Oh,
that's nice.
You know how you're talking about the scene where she forgot that her dad was dead?
Yes.
Well, the very next one, it's where I realized something that's very weird.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys noticed it either, but they don't have fingertips in the art.
Oh my god, you're right. Yeah. They just got like
Eh,
it's not like a great. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's just like an interesting
it's
style.
interesting, but it's really weird because when they touch their face, their hands become part of their face.
Oh god. It's maybe adding to the surreal horror of the webcomic, maybe.
God, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I'm at this other random page where like the mayor is talking to Wadsworth and he's like whispering to him, but his hand is like going over top of Wadsworth's face, so it's like going into it.
It's like the thing. Remember at the end of the movie, like John Carpenter does the thing where like the one guy just like puts his hand on the other guy's face and like slow to muffle him, and then like slowly starts like merging with him. It's like that. Like the mayor's the thing, and it's just got Wadsworth. Nice.
Yeah, it's so weird once you realize it.
My God. Yeah, it's an interesting art style, like design choice.
That's the only line that's not finished on all of these is the fingertips.
Yeah, well, I mean the hair, some of the hair too. Like, I'm looking at Iris's hair, and like her hair just kind of fade, like kind of just like there's no like the certain like parts of it where like the roots are, and they just kind of like they just end. They don't cap off.
Okay.
But again, I think it's just the art style.
It's pretty cute.
It's just so weird.
I know. Oh God! Like I'm looking at Iris like as she's sleeping on the like over the book, and her fingers are just like merging with the pages,
absorbing data.
Yeah, that's how she reads.
She doesn't consume, literally by eating.
Yeah. She's like a plant. She siphons the nutrients out of the pages.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yep.
Anyway, so I feel like we haven't talked about Zane's hair enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, we've been very light on that.
So I propose that it isn't hair, but a tumor.
Oh,
are you sure? Because it's not the tumor.
That's the. It's not the tumor.
Sure.
I literally just said that for the reference. Please continue.
Yeah. That's a pretty nasty tumor he's got there.
Continue.
Yes.
I mean, all the other characters seem to have hair, like regular hair, and it cuts off to show that they have hair.
Yeah. So what my counter is maybe it's not a tumor, maybe it's actually just a birthmark my his grand uncle also has the same birthmark.
Like stick out from your skull.
Like I think one of my uncles has like a growth that isn't, it's not like a tumor or anything like that, but it's a pretty big growth that he's had since he was a baby.
Oh.
I think I could be misremembering, but I for some reason I recall like one of my uncles having one of those.
So you're confirming that it's a weird growth. Gotcha.
Perhaps. I'm not calling it out there. I'm not disclaiming it. No, what's the? I'm not discrediting it out of hand.
He's not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. Saying it's a tumor, but it's a tumor.
Well, it could be. I mean, Zane could have been abducted by aliens, and that's actually the nodule they put in his instead of like his neck or somewhere, like something. They just like slapped it inside of his skull skin. Yeah.
All right. And my next note here is in regards to a little bit of confusion that I had while reading this. So when Zane joins the meeting of the
Yep.
Secret Society of the Skull and Shovels, after the newcomer's oath, Mayor Osgood says that he doesn't want to talk about Horace's death. And he says, let's have a less morbid diversion. Then, in the next comic, he goes on to say, look at poor Harker, lost his wife and kids in the Great Fire.
That's less.
And I'm like,
I think that might have been
that?
the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the confusion that I have is that in that scene where they're playing cards, we don't have a name for the innkeeper.
That's true.
So when he said, look at poor Harker, I assumed that Harker was the innkeeper.
Oh, no. Do we ever see the innkeeper after the skin taker's killed?
I don't know.
Have we ever seen the skin, or not the skin? I keep saying the skin taker because like have we ever seen the Stitch Man and the innkeeper in the same room?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think you might be on something there, Mikey. Incidentally, but
Also, I posted.
Yeah,
The,
it just
Excalibur. Excalibur thing.
God damn it!
I've been working on it casually.
Also, nice, nice, very nice. It kind of gives me those Cartoon Network like commercials they did with like Scooby Doo, where they added like the Scooby Doo cartoon characters in real life. It's kind of reminded me of that. But going back to what you're saying, Mikey, actually, when they're talking about Horace, I just realized that might have been another. It could just be a name that is like from the 1930s, because it's a very older name. It's definitely an older type of name, like Horace. But it could also be a reference to Candle Cove with Horace Horrible, the skin taker's accomplice in the kids show that is actually Static, that you were watching for 30 minutes when you thought you were watching a pirate show. So and I think that's why I kept saying the Skin Taker rather than the Stitch Man. Also, the Skin Taker and the Stitch Man have kind of a similar motif. So I wonder also if maybe the Skin Taker from the Candle Cove is in fact the Stitch Man. Like they're one and the same, kind of in the same vein as like what the innkeeper is in fact Harker. Because we've never seen them in the same room together.
Totally. Because I think he only shows up twice, like at the inn and at that meeting.
Yeah. Do we ever see him like does Zane pass by the reception desk after? And again, maybe he does. Like maybe he's going to show up again in book 2, and in which case this theory is completely blown. But none of us have read book 2 yet, so. At the moment, that's just a theory. A dumb theory. Thanks for listening. No, sorry. Oh, God. I feel dirty referencing that.
I mean, I was going to say why, but whatever.
Sorry, Mikey, not to jump in again. What do you got? Continue, please.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, of course, having the innkeeper be Parker puts him at like over 100 years old, because the fire was 90 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So
well, he does look quite old. That innkeeper.
Mm-hmm. All right. And now for, I guess, my super theory.
A super theory?
Okay.
So, it is established very early on, and I mean early on, aka on the train to Broodhollow.
Yes.
That Zane is having conversations with people that he's not actually having conversations with.
Yep.
So, with that in mind, Broodhollow could just be a grand delusion of Zane, where it's a ghost town and the residents are figments of his mind.
It's literally a ghost town.
Yep.
So he's the only living person there.
Which, oh my god, yeah, he's just this like he's effectively a homeless man living in an old antique shop that's like disused in this like in the ruins of this crumbling, isolated West Virginia town. This has. It would definitely be in theme if like that ends up being the thing at the very end of the story.
Say that's
like
book 3 spoilers, probably.
Yeah, book 3 spoilers, or like that's like the final reveal. Like that's the Saint Elmo's, the show where it's like all turned out to spoilers for some show that from the 90s or 80s. Like where it's like a hospital TV show, and then the last episode reveals that the entire fucking show was just in the mind of an autistic child looking at a snow globe of a hospital.
Wow.
Like it was all the entire TV show, which means that like a bunch of, and because there were like characters from other shows that would occasionally pop into that show, it means those shows are also just in the mind of this child. It's I can't remember. I thought it was Saint. I think I'm confusing Saint Elmo's with something else. Saint Elsewhere. That's what it was called. Yeah, it was called Saint Elsewhere, and like spoilers for that show, but like that it has like the greatest like metatextual ending ever. But I really like that actually, Mikey. Like the idea that like I was about to say is like, don't you do it, don't you sleep paralysis this, but. I don't hate that for this story. Like I would love like that to be the end of Broodhollow, where it's just like Zane is just this old like shaggy like homeless man living inside like squatting in an old like antique shop, and like there's just like and like his only maybe he does have a bat named Mercy, or maybe there's just a bat that's been feasting on him the whole time. Like, and that's why I was like, oh, Mercy, yeah.
Mercy will be when he finally dies. That's the true Mercy.
Oh god! So wait, does this last page of Broodhollow switch from like cartoon style to like the more gritty, real like horror realistic thing? And it's like we actually see what Zane looks like in a horror through that lens. Or it's just like, or it's not even like it's not even like a cartoon or anything at that point. It's actually like a live action photograph of somebody like who's like dressed up like a shaggy version of Zane.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I really do like that idea. Like as like much of a middle finger as that would be to like the whole like premise. It's also very in line with like Ichor Falls, and specifically Candle Cove, like its most famous story, because it was just static for 30 minutes. It was all in the character's head for however long he's been living and squatting in this in this ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like that. That is really, that's an interesting theory there, Mikey. I don't want to believe, but I like it.
All right. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer, do you have anything left for your actual thoughts? Okay.
One is a word that I learned that I haven't heard before, which is slake. When he's trying to sell his encyclopedia to the guy, he's like, slake your family's hunger for information. I've never heard that word before. Yep. It basically means satisfy. I learned a thing.
Yep. Yeah, it's like quench. Or yep.
And then in regards to his second grand half uncle once removed, Virgil Zane, I know it's a joke and all with how long that title of his like connection to him is, but that far down the line, would he have the same last name?
It's possible.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely the joke of I am your father's brother's mother's something's former
Yes.
roommate.
Very
What does that make us? Absolutely nothing, which is what you are about to become. Say
Get
goodbye.
wrecked. Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah.
And then pretty early on, he's like, does everyone here say hello 3 times? And all that? It only happens twice. And he says that on the second person who says hello to him 3 times. Like, I hate to call out the guy who's obsessed with patterns, but 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern. Right?
Fair. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it might have been more than once. We just don't know. But the reasoning, I'm guessing, is based on the secret society. Because when we have the the initiation or whatever,
Yeah.
the last part of it is hello 3 times, but it's oh hell.
Yeah. Oh hell, oh hell, oh hell.
I suppose, yes. But I'll move on. It shows a shot of the town, like one of the first shots during the day. It's on 2012-11-14 if you're curious. I just like on the left side, there's a store that's called Tool and Die, like in all caps.
Wait, hang on. What was that page again?
2012, 11-14. Tool and Die.
Oh my god, I totally get. Tool and Die. I wonder what the other one's like. Janice and Sons General Store Specialty
Items. Bleh.
And then we had the Broodhollow Chamber of Bleh. Wait, what's that other one? Says like something building, theater building, maybe. It'd be funny if it was just like, this is a building.
Building, I don't know.
And then I see Connor off in the distance.
Yes.
Yeah, the Tool and Die though one like, definitely steals it. Yeah, Tool and Die. Yeah. So just to take a page from your book there, gamer. It's Reaper from from Overwatch.
Yeah,
the clerk.
That's his retirement job.
Everybody die. Instead of like shooting guns and throwing them away, he's just throwing like Tool and Die tools at people.
Like he's always pulling them out of his trench coat. There's nothing on the shelves. He's just like, "What do you want?" I need some dye. Okay,
yeah,
die,
exactly.
die, and he's like pulling them out.
Yeah,
that's how he uses his superpower.
Yes,
clearly. But he still has to yell that every time because that's like the is that somatic component to it? Is somatic the auditory?
I think no, somatic is not. I think it's a verbal component.
It's that simple. It's not a weird word.
Yeah, I think somatic is something else. Yes. Yeah, it's hand gestures. Yeah,
but yes, that's a thing now.
Mm-hmm. That honestly should be like somebody's like next superhero character idea is just Tool and Die, man. And like all these like it's like everybody die. Your powers you can create, you can manifest Tool and Die like things and just like throw them at people.
Might be something I have to do. We'll see. Moving on.
Could also be a villain. Actually, that'd also be more of a villain, I think. It's just like you're just throwing heavy objects at people as you manifest them. Anyways, continue, please.
So Maurice was talking to Wadsworth about working hard and needing to unwind, saying that if he doesn't, he's liable to bust a mainspring and all that. When I read that, I really thought he said he's liable to bust a manspring. I mean,
okay.
That's fine if Maurice said that, but I really read it as that.
Yeah.
I want to bust your manspring. And then after Wadsworth gets knocked out by the lamp in his apartment, Dr. Angstrom says he tells him that him making friends with Mercy, the bat, is part of a new school of psychology that suggests phobias can be cured by embracing the thing that scares you. So, is Wadsworth becoming Batman? He's scared of bats, and now he's embracing bats.
Wait, Zane? Wayne?
My God. Like we need to draw more art of Wadsworth in different costumes, but there's another one.
Yes. Oh God.
Mr. Zane.
Bat Zane.
Yeah.
Bat Zane. Wow. What's wait. Yeah, no, I was gonna say what's Alfred's last name?
It's Zane. My God. Oh, it's gonna be something English as hell.
It's Pennyworth. Yeah. Alfred Pennyworth. Anyways, yes, this is this is a silly place.
That's fine. It's come to expected.
Wait. Did I say
Yes.
Pennyworth? Wadsworth.
Oh wow, he becomes his butler.
Well, no, it's like because Wadsworth is his first name, and then his last name is Zane.
Oh, Wadsworth. Yeah, sorry, I was confusing with what's his name? The Rutherford Planchet. For some reason, I was.
It's okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, and honestly, Rutherford Planchet does kind of strike me as being either like Two-Face or the Joker.
100%.
Shit. No. And Zane is from Ark Hill, Massachusetts.
Which kind of sounds like Arkham. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, just drop one thing and then it spirals out of control, doesn't it?
Yep. Yep.
That works.
Indeed.
I will.
Oh,
So
please
the
continue.
nurse at the hospital reminds Iris that she brought her father into the hospital a month ago, which she forgot and starts crying and all that. And then Dr. Angstrom jumps in and says, asks Iris, when was the last time you saw your father? Wasn't that just answered? She last saw him when she brought him in, the night he died. So he wasn't alive after that. Unless he means the last time you saw him before he was killed. Even the death was kind of glossed over. When I first read it, I thought he was dying from an injury and she was driving him in, kind of like how they were bringing Wadsworth in. But I think it's meant that she found him already dead.
Yeah, I think what it is she rushed him to the hospital in the hopes that maybe he'd get better, but then he was already dead when he arrived. Yeah. Also, I hate to. So I'm on 2012. I'm still on 2012, 11, 14. And I just noticed not a grammar issue, but an art issue. The space between Iris's armpit and the broom handle on the second last panel of the page is just white space when it should be. Or they didn't cut out that space so that the background would show behind it. And so I think that's my art inquisition.
You're only one so far.
Yeah. Again, critical. This is constructive criticism, and also this this comic is from 2012. There's no going back. It's fine. But I just read, it was glaring at me and I wasn't sure why I kept staring at the page. I was like, oh, that's why.
Just because you said on that page that there's something wrong art wise, I was scanning it before you said what it was. I thought you were going to say that the bottom left panel doesn't have a border around it. Okay.
Oh no, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
that happens all the time in comics.
But moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So, at 2013-03-22, a few Cadaver comics show up and all that.
Yes.
They kind of seem to show up out of nowhere, and it's not really connected
I can explain why.
to the real world that's going on or nothing.
Yeah, I can explain why those are there. This webcomic is serialized. Those are filler.
Are you serial?
I'm very serial. That's my best guess, honestly. That's why those were there, is because those during those weeks he didn't either. yeah, he probably didn't. He was maybe like having a hard time like working on like getting the comics like updated or finished. So he tossed in some filler comic strips for of Cadaver.
Yeah, maybe. Like he took the time
Yeah,
to make it
I
look
mean
like a real
that would be
paper
my
and
guess.
everything.
'Cause, like, yeah, he probably had those in the back on the back burner for like
Oh, yeah,
for
maybe.
situations like that. I mean, that's speculation. I'm going to say that, like, just clarify that, but like that's how I would have done it as a webcomic artist.
Fair.
I would definitely have some filler stuff I can throw in, so that I have some extra time to finish doing more stuff.
With the filler idea aside, if this was meant to be in here for like lore-based things or whatever, I kind of wish there was a little bit of connection, because previous to that, he's like going through a whole bunch of shit in the back room, and I kind of like there would be an easy way to do a connection there. He's like, oh, what's this newspaper here that my great uncle had? And he opens it up, and then it shows some comics.
Yeah, it'd be cool if like Cadaver is actually like the local paper's comic, like comic strip.
Like it could be added into the lore and all that, and have it flow.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I think Cadaver does get more of a role, like not just being in a dream sequence. Also, like he's kind of a mysterious figure in the comic as well, because like he pops up in Zane's dreams.
Say that because there's a point where he's like,
"Okay, sorry, yeah."
But before he sees him before this, like because he gets knocked out by Maddie, and he sees the Cadaver guy in his head. But then later on, he goes and checks out the back room, and then he finds this newspaper that has this comic in it that he's never seen before, even though he's seen that character in his dream, even though he's never seen it until now. It could be a weird kind of what the fuck's going on connection.
Yeah, it could add extra like connection to it, or like add an earlier hint that there's something afoot.
Yeah, that part I don't really doesn't jive too well with me. Later on, there's an entire page about Mercy eating some wasps or whatever. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, because that's just a little comic about what Mercy was doing in the actual story of everything. It's just this little comic thing seems out of place, but you're probably right. It's probably filler.
Yeah, it's either filler or it's like he's introducing a Cadaver in this way for some reason, because it'll lead up to a storyline later in maybe book 2 or something. Yeah, we'll have to see.
Then in regards to the symbol, actually, before I get on with my note, in regards to the symbol, I have been the past couple of weeks, I've been doing a whole shitload of landscaping outside. And I read this story, but I noticed that when I was putting shovels down, I put them down in an X formation, not even thinking about it. Because I put one down and I put the other one down on top of it, so it's a little easier to get up, so I could just put my foot under it to lift it, but I was unintentionally making the Broodhollow logo, at least half of it, with shovels.
Well, I mean, and then there's the skull,
of
have,
course, because
like,
I killed one of the workers here because he wasn't doing his job well. So that was already there.
Wow,
he was skinned and everything.
Man, that's a. Yeah. Are you secretly the Stitch Man?
No.
Now we need to just like no. Okay, sounds good.
Right. But yeah, yes, in regards to the logo, so Wadsworth gets the symbol and all that, and he holds it the way that you would hold a skull and crossbones when he first finds it. But then he gets spooked and it goes flying, and the mayor catches it and all that. He's like, "Oh, you have this? Oh, that means that blah 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 and all that." And then he goes to the meeting, but he's already wearing it in the correct orientation, even though he had no concept of which was the right orientation, because it's meant to be upside down. But no one told him that.
That's true.
And because no one told him that, there could have been a funny scene of like he opens the door and there's a hooded figure there, and then he reaches out and like takes the thing off and like puts it back up the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been that.
Or like Wadsworth sees the dude standing there with the symbol on his hood the correct way. He's like, oh shit, and he takes it off and puts it back on the right way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True.
He has no way of knowing unless the mayor told him off camera, quote unquote.
Yeah, it could
We're
have
trying
been.
to live through his eyes.
But we
and
could have also
there
had
was
that scene
potential
like
for silliness.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And then in regards to Mr. Stitchman, who's Harker, right? Yes.
Yes, William Harker.
So as a skeleton and all that, and he has the ability to stitch Wadsworth's head up like super fancy and elegant, right? Because he's such a good tailor and everything. Why couldn't he stitch himself up worth of shit then?
Because it wouldn't be spooky. I don't know.
Like, really though, it's the worst stitching ever. It kind of goes against his entire character.
It kind of, yeah, that's definitely one of those things where like the spooky aesthetic kind of took precedence over the character's supposed lore skills.
I guess. But man.
Or maybe like, yeah, maybe like he started off like being like nice and like stitched up and stuff, but like the corruption of the evil or like of his hatred or something like that has like turned him into this horrible monster. So he's like always striving to try and stitch himself back up together, but he never is able to do it because of his the corruption.
Stitch an actual wound up perfectly.
Look, man, this is a funny comic with horror elements. Leave it alone. Not kidding.
It still looks scary.
yeah, it's true. It's
like
fair. Yeah,
Eastern Point Slender Man. He wears a goddamn suit, and people are scared of him.
True. Yeah. Like honestly, when I remember when I first read the Stitchman legend from the Ichor Falls website, I honestly thought more of like the boogeyman from The Secret World.
I don't remember what he looks like.
Like he's basically a 19th century gentleman with like a suit and like a top hat and stuff. Like I kind of just pictured, like honestly, I pictured him having more of a suit than like being like a horrible like skinned cadaver kind of character.
Then we get him, he's absolutely not.
Or having like, yeah, or again, kind of being like the skin take again. Like I think there is some parallels between the skin taker from Candle Cove and the Stitchman of the local legend of Ichor Falls and Broodhollow. In that, like, because the skin taker in Candle Cove is a skeleton with a top hat, big eyes, and a cape of skin that have been stitched together. And so it's like, yeah, I think maybe there might be some correlation between the two, but yeah, it's kind of shut up. The horror art is just supposed to be horrific. Don't think about it too much.
High quality stitching can still be terrifying. That's all I'm saying. Like
Fair.
if his deal, like what's his deal? It's in regards to all the rags on him.
He's kidnapped. Yeah, he kidnaps people, takes their skin, and stitches it onto himself.
Would it not be horrifying to see a quote-unquote relatively normal-looking guy, but like everything is stitched together with different colored skins and all that, but there's no meat, so it'd just be kind of flopping there, or it'd be like tightly stitched around the bone, so he'd be super, super thin, and like you'd be able to see the little dip in the forearm because it's so tightly stitched onto him.
See, I was gonna fight you on this because like, aha, well, you see, because he doesn't have enough musculature, that's why he's unable to do really fine like stitching like he used to. But then that fell apart in my head when I realized, wait, but what about Zane's scar?
His whole deal is he's an expert
tailor. Okay, so
and he came back from the dead because they weren't stitching him up correctly. Fails to stitch correctly on himself.
Well, maybe this is the best. Like maybe in order to be reanimated as like a living corpse, maybe this is how the stitching has to go for that, because of whatever corruptive necromagic is involved. So like that is fine work for that process. But everything else that he does when it's doing normal stitching, it's like a fantastic, like how he used to back when he was alive.
And
I'm really
You
just
are.
drawing
I
at
know,
straws
you're
here,
struggling.
man.
You can feel it. It's amazing.
I'm trying to.
But he did also say like
Thanks.
he's only able to start talking now. Like he's getting more and more human-y. He's getting back to his normal self. So maybe he just hasn't killed enough people. Like what he's wearing is before he had these really fine motor skills. So theoretically, if he killed
Yep.
Wadsworth and used his skin, then that part would be really, really nice.
Yeah, like maybe the scar on Zane's like or like was the best he's been able to do since he was reanimated. Now that he's getting more strength, maybe he'll be able to do that now back to himself. Like you said, like yes, I think that is the excuse to go with.
Here, we're good. Okay.
Yeah,
That
I think so.
works. And then my last note, because maybe I missed this. Because I do that, I miss things. These things happen, but the attack with the lamp and everything in his apartment. It's alluded to that Maddie did it. Did she do it? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be. I think it was the stitched man. I don't think that was Maddie.
If he was knocked out unconscious with his eyes closed, why didn't the stitched man just take him then?
Question.
Possible
because I don't have the panels up for that page when he gets his when the
2013
when the lamp
to 15.
Okay, hang on. I want does it have a red or a blue tone like tint to it?
Red.
Then it's the Stitch Man. It's not Maddie.
Well, the creature in the back is blue. The room is red. Because you can see Maddie leaning out from the door in the back, and it is blue. But she could just be watching him.
Yeah, because that's what she does.
Was...
That's how she died. No, she was watching the Stitch Man take one of the victims from the hospital when the hotel was a hospital, and that's how she died.
So it's possible that the Stitch Man was waiting in his closet, and then when he came in, he threw that at him to knock him out, and then if he's knocked out, he can take him away. But Maddie was there watching, so as soon as he went out, he's like, "No!" and then he went away. So that's why he's still on the ground, because Maddie saved him.
I think we figured it out.
Okay, that's twice in a row.
Yeah,
I needed a discussion to figure something out.
No, that's fine. Like that's one of the reasons our show exists. Is to talk about this stuff.
It isn't said in the rest of the story that that's what happened, right?
I don't think so. But like it is, but then it does get revealed like when the Stitch Man is talking to Zane, like who's captive, it's like that he's had a protector. And then we cut to Iris and Maddie trying to get Iris to help, like trying to get Iris to Zane to help her or to help him. So I think it's like that's like I think it was that honestly could be the hint that like Maddie was actually helping him.
Yeah, the entire time, yeah.
But it would have been construed at that time of it being Maddie. That's the monster, the horror.
Yeah. At the time I thought they were both evil.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's cool that we got there with that discussion though.
Mm-hmm. But that was the end of my notes.
Okay. So on to final thoughts. Overall, I really enjoy this webcomic. As a fan of Ichor Falls and webcomics in general that dash or that throw a dash of horror with their humor, it's basically my blend of horror style and like aesthetic. Like I like throwing in like humor and horror, especially even when I'm running games. Like I try to run horror games, and most of the time, so I'd say like half the time I try to run a serious horror game, but the other half I'm like also throwing my own dash of humor alongside my players who are always throwing in humor.
Shut up.
So I'm not throwing shade. Like you guys are trying to have fun, but it's just sort of like the genre, the sort of like genre of like horror comedy that I've kind of come to expect and now love. So yeah, it really meshes well with my personal like tastes and such. And again, as an Ichor Falls fan, like as somebody who's read all the Ichor Falls stories, seeing some of the old characters or the old monsters and mysteries from those stories kind of thrown in here was really nice and kind of like really tickles my brain. So yeah, I'm gonna still recommend this story. It's still a good piece of media that you should consume.
Which means you should buy the printed one and eat it, right?
I mean,
The
it's only
books are
$20
food.
on Amazon. No, okay. But Mikey, D stands for evil. Your final thoughts and recommendations.
Well, I'm still going to recommend it, even though we had the revelation of the fingertips missing, because it really is something I can't unsee now.
It adds to the horror, Mikey.
Yes.
It's less of a deal breaker and more of like an enhancer.
It's a flavor enhancer. It's Mio.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Mio of the webcomic.
Yeah, and I'm going to be seeing it going into book 2, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the horror is interesting, even if it ends up being that he's just in a ghost town and it's all in his head.
If that is the case, like I don't hate that, but I mean, yeah, it's still a valid like creepy thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at one of the first early comics where it shows the antique shop run down with all the cobwebs and whatnot from the outside, and I just envisioned that's what the rest of the town looks like, but it's not where he's staying.
Yeah. That's actually a really cool like yeah, if that's a hint that like he's everything else is delusional except for the antique store that he found. It's not even like he's just a vagrant that ended up in the antique store and found a photo of the owner that kind of looked like him. It's like, this must be my great this must be my great uncle, and like then the whole fabrication of the entire plot and narrative just expands from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm recommending book 1.
Cool. And gamer.
Well, as an origin story for Warframe stuff, and this clearly being Excalibur, like way before, or maybe like a previous generation of him, because like Dark Sector happened in like the 80s or 2000s or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think the 2000s.
Might have been 80s. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, the game came out in the 2000s. It might have been set in the 80s. It doesn't matter. Completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
I
was gonna counter. Well, it might look 80s because it's in an Eastern European country, so like they have like they were behind the Berlin Wall for a long period of time. So like they'd be their culture like culturally they'd be a little bit outdated. But
don't make me look this up in my final thoughts. It's completely irrelevant.
Hey man, if I have
showing up here, they're already at your door. This story's been a fun read, honestly, so far. There's a lot of stuff in it that's in there for the sake of comedy, which makes sense because it's a comic and all that. But it does sort of pull from the creep a little bit. But then the creep is kind of like dialed back up when it does happen to compensate, like with the hyper-realistic. It's not hyper-realistic, but the more detailed,
highly detailed
of the horror stuff showing up.
Yeah,
it is a nice contrast, even though, as I said in my notes, you kind of see it before it happens, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But between the comedy and everything, and learning about the town and seeing what's going on, it's balanced pretty well. But if you're reading this to be scared, it's not going to happen. At least not in book 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say don't go into this thinking like this is going to be a serious like horror webcomic. It's not. It's a romp.
Yes. Sometimes you just need a nice little romp, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was enjoyable all the way through. Like the characters. It was funny at times. When I say it at times, it makes it sound like I say that it's not funny ever, but I dug the jokes in it, the humor, style of humor and all that. I like Tool and Die and stuff like that. So it was fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Cool. So I'll recommend it.
All right. And yeah, I think that'll do it for this week's episode then. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're also all on Twitter, so you can talk to us there. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
I don't have a choice at this point.
Yep. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Just look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the author and creator of this webcomic, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship of Ichor Falls, Kris Straub, and the creation of Broodhollow, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd literally have nothing to talk about this week. Also, I'd be really sad because this wouldn't be in my life at all. And yeah. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.